I'm a big fan of Cirque du Soleil. I have a lot of friends and family that are performers in Las Vegas. That's why I used to throw this party in Vegas. So it was very interesting because I used to invite the circus performers to entertain crowd, right?
Alex,
Yes.
but I think you couldn't get more interesting. You throw that out.
I'm an entertainer. I'm an entertainer.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Zap Talk. I'm your host, Joe Colantonio. As always, I'm joined by the one and only Alex Zap. Hey, Alex.
Hey, how's it going, Joe?
Good. Great to see you again. And you're in for a special treat because today our guest is Lee Barnes. If you don't know, Lee Barnes is a chief quality officer at Forte Group with over 30 years of experience in software quality assurance and testing. He's been involved in a ton of implementations of test automation and performance testing solutions in hundreds of environments across a wide variety of industries. You also probably seen him at multiple conferences. He also focuses on bringing quality practices with the emphasis on automation and performance to agile and DevOps teams. Really excited to have you on the show. Lee, welcome.
Thanks, Joe. Awesome to be here. And Alex, always great to see you.
Tech is moving fast. ZapTest AI helps you stay ahead. Whether it's testing, RPA, or building a center of excellence, we've got you covered. See it in action with a free demo and get 6 months to prove it works. No results, no cost. Click the link to book a demo now.
So in the past, Alex tends to really know the guests that we're having. And I think our paths may have crossed in the past, way back in the day, back at Mercury World. I asked Lee, hey, do you want to be on the show? He's like, sounds familiar. Is that the guy that had the crazy conferences at Mercury World, or the crazy parties? I'm like, yeah, that's him. That's Alex. So great that you were able to join even after knowing all that.
Very cool. Thanks for remembering that me that way.
Yep.
Very cool.
Any publicity is good publicity, right?
Absolutely. That's by design. Absolutely. Yep.
Love it. Love it. So Lee, I'm just curious to know, you've been around for over 30 years. Tell us a little bit more about your journey, your personal journey, how you got into automation.
Wow. So it all started by accident, actually. I was away from my desk when someone came by looking for volunteers for the test team on a big project when I was with actually Anderson Consulting at the time. And I got volunteered and moved from development to test. We started investigating test automation using, believe it or not, a mainframe tool at the time. I got moved over to, of all things, a Unix X Windows app, and we started using XRunner. So that was my introduction to Mercury, even before WinRunner. And then got moved over to a similar product on Windows and started working with Mercury to develop essentially an add-in for WinRunner to support it. And the rest is history.
So what made you stick around, though? Because you started off as a developer, you stumbled into automation, but what made you go, all right, this is something that I'm going to make a career out of?
Well, so it was kind of the dawn of automated testing, and I had been through the pain of huge manual regression tests, and I just saw a huge opportunity for it, a huge market. And this was before Mercury really, it was kind of gleam in their eyes, certainly, but they weren't owning the market back then. But, I learned the ins and outs of, eventually WinRunner and could probably launch a rocket with it. So I thought I was cool. I didn't really understand the processes behind it then. But I also, I think recognized that software testing, software quality, especially back then, was really the redheaded stepchild of IT. And, I wanted to do something about it. And, that kind of, combined with the relationships I had with Mercury and they were just starting their partner program. And again, that just kind of snowballed from there.
Love it. So speaking of launching rockets from WinRunner, Alex has a military background. Alex, I'm just curious to know, I don't know if I ever asked you this. Why do you think Mercury had such an influence on our generation of automation engineers?
That's a great question, Joe. I mean, to me, it was the no-brainer. It was a sort of family business. So those are the people that I served in Army with, and they gave me a chance to have a different career. So my path and my journey within the Mercury, it was different. But I think there was like a movement. They approached it as a movement. movement of the Mavericks, and it was a new era. It was a web application era at that time, late 90s, beginning of 2000s, right? It was around the bubble 2000, and they put the whole theme into it. Captain Mercury, if you remember, they had this all the marketing agenda,
the billboards and the dolls, absolutely.
right. Chris Lockhead, it was a big mentor for me. I mean, you probably remember Chris Lockhead. He was the chief marketing officer at Mercury. That's exactly. Yep. So that was the whole movement. If you could have asked me to tattoo Mercury on my forehead back then, I would. This is how all in I was.
Well, they had a passion for doing it right. The old joke was it was them and SQA, and I can't remember the third one, but they became irrelevant. It was, if you called three of them to do a POC, one might call you back in a week, the other one wouldn't show up, and Mercury would be on your doorstep with a sales rep and a solution architect the next day. And it wasn't far from the truth.
Exactly. They had very agile paramilitary approach. You have an issue, we got the result right away. Nobody waiting. Nobody could hide in the corner anywhere in the company. Everything was transparent, executed right away. I actually incorporated this style in Zap. This is how we operate in Zap. It's a similar principle. Like you have an issue, we there right away.
Yeah. Yep. No, I love their attitude. Topic for another day, but I actually interviewed with Mercury before I went out on my own, and I was back when I had one office, Santa Clara maybe back then, and the guy was interviewing me. You probably know him, former Israeli Air Force guy, and he wanted me to do some C coding exercise on the board, and I told him, well, I don't know C. He's, I didn't ask you if you knew C. Do the damn exercise. All right. So, and I actually got offered the job, but I decided to become a partner instead. I thought it to be a more lucrative path, but whether that's true or not, who knows? But
right.
So it's interesting. We all have a background in vendor-based solutions, but over the years, obviously, open source has taken over. And when I go to conferences, sometimes people don't realize, I think, the wealth of information vendors bring to software testing and automation because all the things they see. Lee, is there been a shift that you've seen? Like, is it hard to get the right solution at the right company because they're caught on we only do vendor or we only do open source solutions?
I think so, and I think part of the problem is, and maybe the vendors have some culpability here, is that it's a tool first discussion. Yes, the tool is important; it's absolutely important. But I've seen spectacular failures and spectacular successes in almost the exact same environment. And the difference was one of them took care of the supporting factors and the processes, kind of integrated automation with the way they do things. The other one said, nope, this is a tool. All I got to do is install the tool and all my tests and problems are done. So, and, like it or not, that's the tool vendor's message. They're selling licenses. And if the more they talk about process and supporting factors, the more fear, uncertainty, and doubt they introduce in the discussions. And, even though probably in the long run, it's going to lengthen the sales cycle, but it's probably going to increase the chances that their software is going to be more successful. But, they're only worried about this quarter. So,
Alex, do you see that? How do you get over that hump?
That's I'm a product guy, of course, and then this is what I grapple first. Seleniums of the world, right? So, and all the frameworks around that. But my approach to this, it's a process. I never focus on the tool. I mean, I definitely come to the play with my own tool. That's what I do. But I came into the industry from services, for very advanced services background, and I became a tooler from being advanced serviceman. So I understand both sides of the game, right? And this is why we give all the 6 months POCs and all the things that usually tool vendors don't offer because they come from different culture. Makes sense for me. Even though I'm offering the license, first of all, my licenses are limited. And we intentionally designed it this way to compete with open source commotion, basically, right? So if you give me an access to the company, everyone right away can start using ZapTest instantly in every corner of the world as soon as they represent your brand. And that starts scalability right away. But I agree with the fact that idea of using software without negotiating budget, it's very appealing. The only thing the managers and leaders need to understand the cost that comes with that. Makes sense? The implementation cost, because the services, all the man hours and all the billing that wraps around the open source tools, which become very costly at the end. Not to mention other aspects of the skill set and the yada yada. But most importantly, where I'm approaching market as an add value, it's a shortcoming. What the open source tools, no matter how accessible it may be, offer for the process. Make sense? So at ZapTest, I build in, first of all, the technology that can expedite time to market with whatever you do.
With AI-driven test and RPA, we simplify testing, automate tasks, and save you time. Have questions? Let's start a conversation, and let's zap.
Love it. So interesting is one way to get buy-in is to have like a 6-month proof of concept. I'm honestly, I don't know of any vendor that does that. Lee, do you see that would be something that would help companies, or do you still see it as a hindrance? Probably.
I think it would help, right? It lowers. You got skin in the game at that point, right? You're not on your own to do the implementation, and again, take the individual tool off the table for a minute. If they don't know what they're doing, we've all seen it, a lot of customers just take almost a naive approach to it, right? They buy hey, all you need is record and playback. Remember that back in the day? And then it was low code but there's a lot more to it. And even though looking inside the tool, the way you implement the tool, the way you structure your test, the way you structure the components that the tests use, your locator strategies, all those things are important. And if you don't kind of get off on the right foot, you can paint yourself into a corner pretty quick. And I think something like a 6-month POC, that's enough time, right? It's not just a few days, not just a few weeks. It's enough time to get some real critical mass toward a successful down a successful path.
I have a fighting background, and my specialty is street fight. Krav Maga, it's Israeli hand combat. But in the street fight, the rules absolutely different than in the institutional sports, like even UFC. You don't have a rule. And the only rule, it's you versus the other guy or few guys. And you have to be absolutely transparent to what's going to happen. And this is my philosophy to the market. I'm absolutely bold in what I'm offering. And sometimes my technology is very advanced, and I don't afraid to say that. And sometimes people hard to believe that it really can do what it does. And this is why I'm coming to the market with the very bold statement saying, guys, I'm willing to work, and we're giving you also full-time expert on a full-time basis as a part of the package. So I'm actually paying beside the fact that I'm giving licenses for software that I invested a lot of money and marketed, and give you opportunity on enterprise level to start using it everywhere in the corner of your company. I'm giving you full-time, cross-discipline certified expert with the experience that's going to guide your team and lead your team at no cost.
So, Alex, what I'm curious to know, I want to be timely here. Latest news breaking is OpenAI just released Operator AI, which is it's almost like they just discovered automation, even though, like we said, we've been doing automation of browsers since 1994. So I don't know how they're doing anything different. But do you see, it seems like there was back in the day, you had to be a tester. And then all of a sudden, you need to be a developer because you have these open source tools. You need to learn Java. And now it seems like, you don't need to know anything. You just use AI. Operate AI, it's going to replace everything. Lee, do you see that as kind of waves and crescent and come and go, or is that something you've been seeing now?
It always is, but I think none of this ever absolves you from understanding what good testing is. First of all, right? Just navigating a website isn't testing, right? Testing is finding problems, and none of this absolves you from that. I mean, Operator is cool, right? But it doesn't know testing. It's been trained on data to succeed on well-known types of websites, right? A lot of us test applications that, most of the public never sees. It's never been trained on that. And we kind of poke in the corners, and we test negative conditions, and we need very specific paths. Operator, given no other instructions, is just going to figure out a way to get it to work. right? And it doesn't have testing features. So we've actually had some discussions internally about that. Could you use operator as kind of the interaction GUI interaction layer of a framework? Sure, you could, but you got to have a framework to control it. The test controller, parallelization, getting prompts, componentization, getting the prompts specific enough to manage that. And if you think about it, all you're really saving is the maintenance on locators.
Right.
So now again, right, this is January 29th, right? Next week, it might be capable of doing, 10x of what it can do today. Who knows? But right now, it's not a test automation tool.
Right. And so, Alex, that's a good point. That's another thing I think working with the vendor is not only are you buying a solution, you have experience with the process of what works with hundreds and thousands of customers, and you have over 25 years of experience. Do you see that benefiting as well? Yeah, we have AI. You may be at some point maybe consuming operator AI, but you're almost putting a framework on top of it that's led by good processes that you've seen work in other testing projects. I'm just making this up. I don't know if it's true or not. Like, is that true?
Well, Joe, I agree with Lee to the point that's definitely human intelligence important at this point, at least, right?
Right.
Though at Zap, we rebranded to ZapTest AI. Everything about Zap, it's AI. Even all the personnel doesn't do anything manual. Everything they get an agenda, they have to do it with AI. So I'm a big AI believer, and I all way into AI, and we do see that agents, either it's going to be operator or agents. I think the agent's going to be the first Microsoft, the one that Microsoft doing. We aligned with Microsoft a lot, and we're planning to build it within the ZapTest later this year. It's in the plans to augment the man hours to expedite the development process. At this point, where we're at in the process, what is Zap is shipping today, it requires less man hours for coding because our Copilot generates code very fast. It requires less man hour for planning because our Plan Studio does assorting all the salads of documentation and put it in the procedural and reusable modules with the parameters and yada yada automatically. So it takes less man hours, but with the higher experience, if you will. So where you had, let's say, a number of subject matter expert, a number of automators, now you have to less subject matter expert and less automators, but the higher grade professionalism. So you have the business analyst that can review all the modules that have been presented to you by analysis tool within Zap, and the automation architect that can review all the source code that's been returned by Copilot if it's aligned, right? So again, it's a work in progress. What we see, yes, I mean, if the market leaders like Microsoft and OpenAI are driving the trend, we're definitely going to be catching up at some point. The only thing I want to tell you, lucky for us as a serviceman and the vendors, that corporate world, especially corporate America, very conservative. So it needs to be a very dire crisis for enterprises to move faster. They will be moving faster because this year, it's the last year when budgeting been done with the old mindset of the productivity. The 2026 will be taken in budgeting with cutting the cost adjustment to certain percentage, say 25, 30% of the productivity that board of directors will expect for CIOs to drive from the AI infused processes. And as we're moving forward, it's going to be even more so. So for us as the vendors and the servicemen, we need to be creative in the way how we augment our services and our products to adjust into AI, to deliver more in a lesser period of time. But definitely, this is something that we're facing today, and it's going to be even more so. That's what I see.
Yeah, I see agents too, maybe having more capability as exploratory testers. So agents trained in specific areas, whether it's business or application domains, maybe from a technical perspective to look at certain aspects of applications and then let them go, as opposed to just using their power in kind of a very narrow way to interact with the UI, based on some external instructions, very static instructions.
I see agents taking place a couple of years in advance because we need to have a robust agent, something that's going to do what human can do today. And that's going to take a while between the development and testing and the modernizing, getting it ready for the market. B, very important, most important than anything, it's a market adoption. I'll give you an example. I was one of the first in the world evangelists that started the fully remote collaboration. That all my company, it's engineers without border. We don't have a physical office, everything on cloud. And we never had it, for many years. Now, I used to be kind of blue man on the market, approaching the corporations with this model, say, even 10, 15 years ago. And we had to have a very special permission to have engineers working remotely, accessing the environments remotely, and yada, yada, right? Now, in the pandemic, 5 years ago, it became a new normal. Today, opposite. Companies even don't want to have offices to cut the cost. So you have to have sort of dire crisis that will drive the market to adopt and observe new technology, new normal. And what I see with AI, it's the competition going to drive it. Because if your competitor adopting it, you will be forced to adopt it as well. Yeah.
Well, Lee, are you seeing that? You work with a lot of companies. Have you worked on any projects where you're starting to say, okay, let's kind of modernize and incorporate AI, or is it still too early from the companies you're working with?
So we have done quite a few explorations with using AI-assisted testing. At the larger corporations, as Alex mentioned, very conservative. So whatever you want to do has to be approved. They might be using, they all have, if they're using open LLMs, they have a centralized access to it if they're not trying to run them locally. And it's like turning a battleship trying to get anything done. I think competition is going to drive that. We're seeing a lot of potential in terms of being able to chat with your test model, being able to generate test cases from requirements using tech specs and functional specs, and actually we're seeing promising results in terms of getting usable test cases. Not 40% of the way there, and someone has to come in and get the other 60%, but just kind of a human in the loop review and tweak this and tweak that. Obviously, garbage in, garbage out from an input perspective, but we're seeing potential. But certainly in the larger enterprises, a lot of inertia. Just it's usually coming from procurement and legal. Like, I don't know if you can do that, and they don't understand it, quite frankly. Technology is screaming for it, but the administrative side of the business is putting the brakes on.
But it's going to change, I believe, because the comprehension of the speed going to align to the system prompt. Whatever ChatGPT with the speed that's going to present to you on your user prompt, this is how enterprise is going to expect the decision will be making. And the speed going to increase on the decision making and moving the envelope from one point to another. Absolutely. Trust me, I struggle from that the most, because for me to get, because we are running the software on enterprise level, and the whole point that, yes, the one group you can start broadcasting it to any other group within the world, it's a very new concept, and for sourcing and procurement, it become like a wow, blow in the face, right? So stop. So let's take one step at the time. Managers suffers the most because managers want to use it. They're not given opportunity to use it. Makes sense, because the culture is not there yet, but it's starting to change rapidly, and I see it in the field because I'm talking to anywhere managers to the C-level executives every day, and I see the attitude started to change. Absolutely. So I hope for best.
Yeah, it's going to change. It has to. There's too much pressure building up.
Joe, I think it's also matter for humanity to trust machines. Like, I usually use an example. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
It just
Convince
happened
me
in
on
my
this
life.
one.
Right. I use for many years. I was one of the first in the world that started to use car with autopilot. The biggest challenge of the autopilot is to trust it to stop right before when it's speeding, let's say 60 miles an hour, uh, to stop in front of the car on at the traffic light because you have to trust it to stop, right? And it took me a couple of years not to attempt to press the brakes. So the same with the AI. I mean, once the humanity gonna start using it more, we're gonna start trusting it more, and the sentiment about the AI and the making the decision are gonna change as well.
For over 20 years, ZapTest has been at the forefront of software automation. We began with software testing, but have evolved into a full-stack cross-platform automation solution, unifying DevOps and BizOps processes for enterprises worldwide, and merging test automation and RPA into one integrated automation process. Today, I'll show you how our ZapTest AI capabilities are transforming automation to a whole new level.
Yeah. No. I guess so. Then I guess should we be investing in how to create good guardrails then? Like trust it, but put in guardrails that we can trust, or like how do you put complete trust into a mechanical, like a algorithm, basically to take care of things that you probably might be a little iffy about. Lee, any thoughts? I brought you on the show because I know you have pushback on BS and things. So
well, certainly human in the loop is important, right? And I know we have complete autonomous driving, and apparently Alex has been doing that for longer than the rest of us or the rest of anyone. But there's got to be human in the loop, right? You've got to have some confidence that whether it's an agent or anything, right? Have some confidence that it is correct, right? Whatever correct is in the context of what you're doing. I think as you gain confidence that the frequency of that human in the loop, as long as you're monitoring it, through some other means, I think is okay. But even we're doing a POC now. We're generating test cases from requirements, and every test case right now that's generated is reviewed. Sometimes it just is clicked and is sent off as approved, but others need 3 or 4 revisions with feedback from the human before that happens. So am I going to close my eyes and watch someone attached to a Jira repository and then spit out a test model on the other end? No, I'm not there yet. So
yeah, but it's just a matter of time. You'll do it 3 times on the roll.
Getting better.
You will see the
Absolutely
machine is correct. You'll stop micromanaging it, and
that's
my point. Learn how to trust it, right?
You got to learn how to trust it, and that and gain that confidence. Absolutely,
sure.
But it's got to prove to you that it deserves to be trusted.
Absolutely. I mean, like any technology, with the automation as well. Remember, when we started the automation, you always review the results, accuracy, object recognition. Did you click the button? I did it. Make sense? I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, I just know when I took a computer science programming class one time, they went over unsolvable things that computers can't solve. Like there's certain things like P versus NP problems with the algorithm because it takes too long to solve the problem, and it would never be able to solve it because it's unsolvable. So, but Lee, you make it sound like AI can solve a lot of these things. Is there anything AI can't do? And if it can't, then where does Lee's point come in? Where do humans then fit in the loop?
Well, someone has to train these models on, if we're talking about testing, what good software testing is, and someone's got to monitor that, provide, continuously train it. So, I think we've all come to the realization that if you are a tester and all you do is follow instructions and push buttons and fill in fields, you're going to become a dinosaur here pretty quick, right? You have to understand what good software testing is and use, at least right in the current state, AI as a productivity tool for you in various ways, right? But you are the human that's guiding it and reviewing it, and hopefully it's doing a good enough job where you're getting a net productivity boost from that. And I think that's the case now. And to Alex's point, I think we're not that far away from needing less review, needing less monitoring, and we're using our knowledge to solve higher level problems. Do we get to the point where we have AI, like the Matrix, AI creating programs and testing them, and we have no idea it's even happening? Well, I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Maybe we're all in the Matrix now. Who knows?
Oh, yeah. Could be. So I actually saw a weird demo, a crazy demo where someone created agents trained on one was they called it anti-accessibility tester, and then Peter performance tester. And it's like an autonomous AI agent that tests your site with the knowledge of an accessibility tester, with the knowledge of a performance tester, and bubble up those type of insights. So it almost incorporated, like you said, the intelligence of a tester with the knowledge of how to automate. So it's kind of spooky to me. But I don't know, Alex, thoughts on that type of technology or?
Well, you can apply it this way or another. I mean, the bottom line, what we're trying to achieve, I guess, with agents, it's just autonomous doing something. Or how accurate, it's definitely going to mature within time, like anything else, right? Yeah, so this way or another, the industry going to shift a little bit as far as what we as professionals can contribute to it. Definitely, human go nowhere as long as software represents human interests. Human involvement going to be there. It's going to be machines that doing it for human and with human. We'll see how far it's going to go, how fast, right?
Yeah. And to your point, Joe, on agents, I think the accessibility is a great use case. We've had web crawlers forever, right? They're not very intelligent, but now you have essentially that type of functionality with an LLM behind it, or a specifically trained model behind it in terms of how to navigate applications, and also trained with accessibility rules and policies and even laws. I think that's a great use case.
All right, Lee, around this time, we'd like to play a game called Stump Alex. So it seems like Alex knows how to get around everything with AI. So I'm just curious to know, with your vast amount of experience over 30 years, maybe you could try to stump Alex by giving maybe a use case or like a team dynamic that you found, or a testing problem, and get his input on how he would solve that particular situation. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's usually the game that we get into here.
Oh, let me think for a minute. We've all saw lots of interesting problems, and I think we probably all had some problems where we said, we probably shouldn't be solving that problem, given the effort and cost associated with the benefit. But especially early in my career, but I think now, especially given agents and things like Operator, which are operating like a human with computer vision, how would you? So, assuming we have, for whatever reason, we have an interface that is just a pane of glass to us, right? We can't see that. We can certainly visually see it, but we can't.
Right?
Citrix, exactly. Mm-hmm. So if even a regular business application, Citrix, I would argue you put the test tool on the Citrix server and interact with the application there. But assuming we had to interact through that pane of glass, I guess the first question is, knowing what you would have to do to interact with the user interface, essentially, an analog kind of visual, move the mouse, keystroke type of way, would you even do that in 2025?
Absolutely. Lee, I got you. Hello, brother. So I designed my ZapTest object recognition almost 15 years ago with this commotion. The story of was, you remember, we both were service partners of HP. And HP was putting quota on you, right? So you had to sell that much of the HP software through you to keep in the game, right? So I came to this game from Mercury being the special team that was doing services only. I didn't have a service sales team. And I created my software that it is right now, ZapTest. It was add-ins that fix. On the alternative object recognition to what the market was offering at that time. Even up to date, all the object recognition except Zap, it's a dumb base for most of the top part.
Yep.
So
Yep,
you
for
have a
most part.
Seleniums, you have, it's a dumb base. So I had to build the Spider-Man. That actually the mission was to fly through the glass windows. And my object recognition, it's one of the first of the world computer vision. We didn't know back then that it's called computer vision, right? So would I have proper marketing term for that? But in fact, that's what it is. So what it does, it does not have any dumb hooks at all by design. And that's specially designed for cases like that. But of course, it can apply to anything else because we don't negotiate what UI we automate with this commotion. But I'll explain it to your question because you're professional enough to understand that. So we use glorified OCR that have a PhD in math, put it in all the mathematical algorithms around that, right? So what it does, it reads any text that you have. Any interface would have at least one label, this way or another, right? Or any image that can be treated as a text. And based on that, I'm a big fan of Cirque du Soleil. I have a lot of friends and family that are performers in Las Vegas. That's why I used to throw this party in Vegas. So it was very interesting because I used to invite the circus performers to entertain crowd, right?
Alex, yes. But I think you couldn't get more interesting. You throw that out.
I'm an entertainer.
Right? And that explains a lot back from those parties, by the way.
Does.
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say, I took the principles of the aerialist. When the people hold to each other in the hooks. Make sense?
Yep.
And I build the anchoring system and the object recognition that can hook as many objects as you want to the anchor object. And that we mastered over 15 years. It's a bulletproof with all the setups and adjustment and what's not. So when we come to the POC, we have what we call Kibachi grill. We call it live POC. If you're my prospect, right, and of course you're going to have doubts how great it is because I'm going to tell you all these crazy stories and you're going to say, this guy doesn't understand English very well. But I can tell you, I'm going to ask you for 2 hours time with you, right, on the Zoom. And we come there, me and my engineer, we come there unprepared. You don't need to send me a prompt anything. You might if you'd like. You're going to walk me manually. You're going to install tool on your machine. ZapTest. It's an on-site, on-prem installation, right? You're going to have it on your machine. You give me a remote control. You're going to show me manually steps that I need to automate. It may be testing, maybe RPA. Doesn't matter. It's going to be UI automation in this case, right? I'm going to repeat it right after you using your machine with my tool installed on that. No question asked. And I'm going to make it work. And at that point, if I'll make it work and you will see it playing back, we're going to sign the 6 months POC. At that point, you will be comfortable to give me opportunity to work for you for 6 months without paying me. It's not me wanting to work for you. I know they're going to make it happen. So that's to answer your first question, how we can automate glassy-like interface. Yes, we can automate it all. It's not a problem. That's what makes us standing out, sort of. Yeah. Decide that we can also, I can tell even more. I mean, we have technology that can automate on the mockups. Because of the object recognition, it's not DOM-based. We don't care. We treat the same user interface as we treat the same hand drawing on the whiteboard with the picture of your phone. And we parse it on the objects right at the design phase. So if we, in the agile development, we sit in on the same design meeting with the product owner and the head of development, going through the requirements. We're understanding requirement with the product owner, and based on the use case and any hand drawing, based on your imagination, if you have a wireframes, we'll take it, of course. We can build entire automation framework before the first build even being developed.
What do you think of that answer, Lee? Any holes you could poke in there, or any concerns, would you modify?
So I remember the pain of, back in the day when Windrunner only supported a few technologies, and we would try to, because the Mercury would sell it to anyone, and we would try to get it to work on applications that weren't supported, trying to use, image comparison and the terrible OCR that Windrunner had back in the day. So I'm trying to extend that pain to what you're explaining. So obviously you're using something way over and above basic OCR algorithms to be successful.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just a pure OCR. Anyone could take a pure OCR and do it. As I said, I had a whole team of mathematicians that shaped it out, wrapped it into the very sophisticated algorithms, of course. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, my competitors tried to mimic it, but it wasn't successful. If you take, I'm not going to name names, but if you'll take the leading casting tools, if you take leading RPA tools, they all have some kind of OCR engine tried to build in, but it's not as efficient as ZapTest. This is why I offer all this POCs and throwing it away. Now, I wanted to comment on Lee's statement about Mercury was selling it to anyone and throwing out as the vendors to make it work.
Right.
And that's what's making it. That's what made us gladiators of this build.
That's right.
We're just
I won't name any names, but they sold X-Runner to the Marines, and they sent me to Camp Pendleton in a simulated, like, they dropped the mobile units that look like a back of a trailer truck out in the desert. So we're working in the back of this trailer truck. Of course, I don't know any better. I show up in my suit, and we just, whatever they've done to this program, we can't get the X-Runner hooks to work. So I call the guy that assigned us at Mercury, and he says, "You know what? You're only there for another day. You need to make it look good. And on Friday, you need to throw up your arms in victory and then run like hell before they figure out it doesn't work." and this was, probably Wednesday afternoon. So yeah, he called it a Vietnam engagement. He said, "Yeah, it's a Vietnam engagement." Like, what the hell's that? You throw your arms up in victory and you get out of there before someone figures out you lost.
Did you get it to work, Lee? Yeah. Or did you do that?
No, it was They had it locked down. You couldn't get the X-Runner hooks into the app.
Oh, jeez.
And it was very visual, so there was no OCR capabilities.
I didn't consult in the military contractors and the defense industry vendors where they used to strip search me before I walk into the office.
Oh, jeez.
I might have drew the line right there. I don't know.
That's very true.
Bro, I'm an ex-military, so I'm okay with that. Whatever it takes,
I just see Alex. Good.
Yeah.
And we learned more about why those parties were so crazy.
That's right. So, Lee, I want to thank you once again for joining us. I'm just curious to know, like I said, you speak with a lot of companies, you do a lot of consulting, you do a lot of stuff, but I know you had a company and you merged with Forte Group, but I'm not sure I've ever got the story. What is Forte Group? What you all do there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I run the quality engineering practice within Forte Group. We've partnered with them for almost 20 years in that area. But they're a full-service software engineering firm with development centers in Eastern Europe and Latin America. Big focus on data engineering and AI, as I think most organizations are. I was always a project-based, kind of advisory focused company, and as Forte grew up, and I watched them grow up, that's what they grew up into in terms of software engineering, solving problems. Yes, that we have teams that are developing software and products for people, but we're solving problems and taking a very solution-based approach. So that was very attractive to me, and that's us.
Love it. All right, Alex, any parting words of wisdom?
Well, I want to wrap up by saying thank you for watching ZapTalk podcast. I want to appeal to managers and leaders of DevOps and BizOps operations, which are responsible for optimizing testing and RPA process within their organization. We're moving into an era of very fast changes where you will be required to deliver way more with what you got. And ZapTest AI is going to equip you perfectly with that. So either you do testing, or you do robotic process automation, or you want to develop the center of excellence where the existing teams will be able to serve across the board, either testing or RPA process in the simplest way. So it's a very quick process. It's only a few meetings. In 1 hour in first meeting, we're going to show you how the tool works, personalized demo.
Then we're going to move into the 2 hours proof of concept, where we're going to show right in front of you what ZapTest AI can do for your organization with your application. And then we're going to engage in the 6 months proof of concept, where you don't have to pay us if you won't see the result in productivity. So please use the link below, book a demo with me and my team, and let's zap.
And stay off the road when Alex is in his self-driving vehicle.
Right.